Well, looking back, what is something you would say what is something you would say to earlier Scott and Dustin as as yourselves, like before this whole process, to give advice, like Scott, you should focus on this, young Scott, or you know what I mean? Like, what's some advice going into this that you would give yourself in the past?
I would certainly say uh, have larger balls
Okay.
is one of them. Don't be afraid. You have to when you write, and look, I've had success writing. I produced a lot of television. I got hired time after time after time to do that. It wasn't what I wanted to do ultimately, and
Hmm.
I think that although I was proud of myself, I didn't quite realize. And I've had a lot of these stories on my mind for a long time, and this is the first time that I've actually put it out there and said, and maybe and part of it is because of the experience that I had, and part of it is because I want to tell these stories in a way that are also entertaining, and say something. When you talk about show business, you're talking about people who are trying to say something. You're talking about them. Uh, like I said, I was Hollywood adjacent, and
Yeah.
I never had the courage as a younger person to really go for what I wanted to do. And I would certainly say, do a lot of writing. Every writer tells you do a lot of writing. Find the people, find your tribe. Chuck, I think, is a great thing to say. That's a
Hmm.
great way to put it. And just work, man. Work towards it. Don't. It's so much easier in some ways to do it today, and so much harder in other ways. But the business is always the same. You got to believe in what you're doing. You have to believe in the stories that you're telling, and you have to just put it out there and wait for that one break to happen, and then and just go for there. So there you go. Find your tribe. Have bigger
Nice.
balls.
Dustin, do you also require giant balls, or what's your advice?
I've been reading some books on the filmmaking of the early 70s. And what I will say is during this process, and what I will say is, Dustin, I'm going to need you to be more like Robert Evans and less like Roman Polanski because you may be dealing with Robert Towne. If you know anything about this gentleman, if you know anything about this gentleman, you know that he will think and he will think and he will think and he will think. If you know anything about Robert Towne, he drove a lot of people crazy doing a lot of thinking. But honestly, if you want the magic to happen, it's going to happen. You just have to be willing and you have to wait, and then it will come. And you got to be willing to work for it too, because that's what writing is essentially. Writing is rewriting, and it's been like that with other projects I've worked on, and we see it here with Scott's project as well. And I think where it is right now, I think I'm being honest. I think this script has magic in it. So here's to it actually getting on the screen.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just going to give you a quick Robert Towne story.
Please.
Like I said, I interviewed him 3 separate times for about an hour each time. My editor, hated cutting his interviews. Hated it because the man would interrupt himself mid thought, would do a lot of pausing, would and it wasn't because he was having difficulty talking. The problem was because he's quite eloquent when you put his sentences together. Of course, he's brilliant, but
Hmm.
I think he's just one of these guys that so many thoughts are coming at the same time that he's trying to figure which one needs to get out of his mouth.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's something to behold. I would never want to live that way, but I can totally get the Polanski versus Evans, because each of them have their strengths, and the Evans strength was to pretty much get along with everybody in the smartest way possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely attest to the whole genius thing. It's a huge burden, and I've got kind of even on this show, I've got kind of the mush mouth, and it's kind of annoying sometimes. So yeah, I definitely I'm basically Robert Towne as well. So I think we're all Robert Towne.
Yeah, I can tell because you're having such difficulty putting that sentence together.
Yeah, see, it's a prime example.
Too many thoughts, Chuck. Too many thoughts.
Scott, do you know what Chuck's?
Yeah, it sucks. Giant brains.
Do you know what Chuck's nickname is? Just so you know, and just so everybody else knows, my nickname for Chuck is the Mastodon of Hubris, and that's on full display even today.
Yeah.
That's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It's not the elephant of hubris. It's the mastodon of hubris.
Yep. Well, that's the way she goes.